for joining. We're very excited to welcome Andrew G. Shields from CONDAT. Andrew is our speaker today, and he's the program manager at the State Local Bridge Program. He started at CONDAT in 2019, and he became the program manager of this State Local Bridge Program in 2022. Since we have a hybrid meeting, I'm going to just mention some housekeeping rules for the folks here in the room and online. So please inform us if you just letting you know that we did start the recording. So our intention is to be able to put this on the NVCOGCT YouTube channel afterwards. We do have two speakers on the table. Those also have our cameras and the microphones. So I would request that you just keep your side chats to a minimum because sometimes they can pick up those chats as well. And if you do have questions, if you're in the room or online, feel free to ask them as we go. And Andrew can either take them as we go, or he'll just say that we'll take them at the end. But feel free to ask them so you don't forget them. We're very excited to do this lunch and learn. We thank the folks that are here in the room and then the folks online. And we will get started. Thank you.
Should I stand or is this all right for everyone?
No, we don't do that.
Okay.
And the video will follow.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. So, hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andrew Shields from DOT. Thank you very much, Kate, for the introduction. If you guys have ever seen one of my presentations before, they're all generally the same. But this one, since it's a lunch and learn, I'm more than happy to make it more conversational and more casual. At the end, I would also like to maybe drop through the Fed local and state local bridge program websites, just to kind of get everyone a little bit more familiar with what's going on. The easiest way to find those links are if you ever email me at andrew.shields@ct.gov. Right in my email signature, I have it right, a link right there. So getting into the presentation itself, my supervising engineer is Mark Burns, and our new principal engineer as of last year is Greg Funk. So the local bridge program is split mainly into two main sectors. It's the Fed Local Bridge Program and the State Local Bridge Program. Today's presentation is mainly going to hub off of the State Local Bridge Program, but I'll give a little bit of information as we go along if it differs from federal local, just to kind of get people. So we're part of the Consultant Liaison Engineering Bridge Division. So that's CLE Bridge under the Department of Transportation. So the State Local Bridge Program is a dollar for dollar grant match. So a lot of the projects that are typically done for municipalities are you are going through the either design, permitting, or construction process, and every month you guys send in invoices and get reimbursed. The way we work is if all your stuff is submitted to me early on, I can get you paid 50% one lump sum grant for all applicable costs up to that point, including your projected cost estimates for the rest of the project on day one of construction. So in the real world, sometimes that payment comes a little bit later if we have some lagging documents or what have you. So per chapter 240, section 13A-175Q, that's where you could find a lot of the funding specifics on the state local bridge, but that was kind of a light summary. So the state local bridge program is a soft process, or if you need a little bit of help, I'm obviously there to be as hands-on as required. So the municipality is the one who holds the permits, administers the project, and is signing all of their documents and certifying that everything is built to standard, went through the correct permitting, and is structurally sound and so forth. So I'm really just kind of checking boxes and making sure that everything is built up to standard, is certified, and is approved by the appropriate overseeing government entities, since state money is involved. And we all know where state money comes, it comes from the Fed. So more or less, we still need to abide by a lot of their procedures, although this is just a state local bridge program. So I oversee a lot of the milestones of the projects themselves. So as projects are going through environmental permitting, your rights of way, if the bridge is changing in size or location, something like that, I need to be a little bit more involved in. But if it's just a direct replacement, I can pretty much oversee the project at your great milestones. So if you send me a submission of the full administrative package of the project, of all of your documentation going into bid, then we could pretty much just hop, skip, and jump on the payment. So, one of the good things about working with these programs is that it's, I'm able to reimburse retroactively for some of the costs incurred. So if you found out about this today and suddenly you are going through your inventory of structures in your municipality and find something that you guys already started design on 3 years ago and are working on permitting, good news, I can cover 50% of it in the state local bridge, all the way from the napkin idea of inception, all the way through where you are current day and all the way through construction at the end. So I manage, because I'm much more hands-off and not in the project, that does a couple of things. Because we're a state entity, we have a tendency to, let's say, take our time with some things. So doing our best to try and get through some of the red tape and make sure things move along efficiently and productively at all times. I have done my best since I took over the program to make it as hands-off as possible and make it as seamless and smooth to get through to production as soon as possible. So because of that, I'm able to take on a lot more projects. So typical DOT engineers, they're dealing with anywhere from 1 to 2 projects if you're the actual project design engineer. If you're a project manager, you're taking anywhere from 5 to 20. In the Fed Local Bridge Program, we're taking on anywhere from 20 to 40 projects a person. And then I split my time kind of half and half between Fed Local and State Local. State Local, I have about 120 projects. So my memory isn't the best when it comes to trying to remember details about these specific projects, just because I have so many. But the good thing is that it's much easier to kind of make things seamless and easy to get through. Because I'm dealing with so many, again, it's a hands-off program. So because of that, again, all the municipalities themselves are pretty much managing their own projects, and as deliverable items that need to be reviewed by the by CTDOT, I am performing those checks and balances, making sure everything's there. But again, the municipalities are pretty much running their projects themselves. The goal here is to get people in and out the door as soon as possible, because as projects tend to stay in the program, obviously costs increase over time, and everyone's probably greatly familiar with that. Over the last, 5 to 7 years, we've seen costs blow up. And as I took over the program, I was having a lot of growing pains with that issue. And so far, I was able to get through, I think, 40% of all projects since the inception of the state local bridge program back in the 80s, in the last 4 years. So in 4 years, I was able to get through about 40% of the entire history of the state local bridge projects, in just really speeding them up, getting them up, and getting them out the door, not letting anything lag anymore. So, like I mentioned before, trying to cut as much red tape as possible for a lot of these programs is essential to keeping these projects on track and in and out the door in the 3 to 4 year design period, or full project duration period, I'll say, we're aiming for about 2 years design, and that includes permitting and right of way. And then 1 to 2 years construction, depending on if the bridge needs to be open on one lane and have alternating one lane traffic, or if it's just a big project. So a 3 to 4 year design period is really what we're aiming for. And I was able to get a lot of the projects down from an average of 6 to 8 years to 3 or 4 now. So obviously you can see that 8 years ago, a project cost is probably about 50% of what it is today. And I can show more details on that as we get into the presentation. So eligibility. This is a very common question for the state local bridge program. So it's quite wide open, I should say. So the road in question needs to be a municipal road. It can't be a state route. It just needs to be any municipal road. It could be Main Street. It could be a tiny little cul-de-sac at the end of some tributary local road in the backwoods of your municipality. So anything that's municipally owned, it just can't be on a state route or a state highway. It needs to serve, again, a public roadway, so it can't be something that is a glorified driveway. It has to be public use at all times, and it has to be on the CT functional classification maps as a public roadway. If there are questions about that, we can get into functional classification at the end of the presentation as well. Another thing that needs to be there for statute is it needs to be a 6 foot or more clear span for the structure. There have been questions in the past of if there's multiple pipes next to one another. If the structure is over 6 feet, we're good to go. We are allowed to fund if there's multiple culverts right adjacent to one another. If it's all the same structure, it's good to go for the state local.
That's stronger, isn't it? Wasn't it, used to be a lot bigger span, or it's always been 6 feet?
6 feet. So 20 feet and over is Fed Local Bridge program.
Okay.
So the Fed Local Bridge does 80% federal funds, 20% state funds, and the minimum structure length needs to be 20 feet and over for Fed Local, and it needs to be on a local road. It can't be on a main road or an arterial route, and that all comes down to the functional classification as well. Make sense?
Not completely, because you would think that federal would want a larger main road.
Yeah.
In that case, you would go after the 50-50?
Yes, if your structure is under 20 feet, you would go after the 50-50. And because the state local bridge program is capped at a certain amount of funding that I have a year, I'll get into that in later in the presentation as well. I rank all the structures based on their structural rating, NBI and SMBI, and the worst ones get funding first, up until we run out of money. So my funding is finite in the program annually, so I am only allowed to take the worst program bridges that come through the door each year. So if you were to apply to the program and not make it 1 year, that doesn't mean you're never going to get in. That just means in the future, as the bridge degrades, I will be able to accept the structure at that point in time. Next. So selection methods based on the rating themselves. There's a couple of developments with what's going on here. So this is the NBI structure rating. That's the National Bridge Inventory rating. It's out of 100, and a bridge with a score of 100, never been touched by a human hand, absolutely flawless through and through. And a bridge that's 0 got washed away and is no longer there. I've seen both, and it's much better to have the former. When we're dealing with the actual grading, we break the bridge down into the following criteria, and that's the superstructure, substructure, waterway adequacy, and those are calculated via the structural adequacy, serviceability, and essentiality of public use. So the structural adequacy is making sure all the concrete and steel in the structure is good to go. There's no erosion issues. And the serviceability is how easy is it to repair? And also the road that it serves, how essential is that road? Based off of traffic counts, and we also factor in detour length. So if we have one main road through town and there's nothing else there, the rating on that bridge is gonna then be lower, because in order to get a detour to go, say, 20 miles around is gonna be a lot more difficult than if there's a side street right adjacent to the structure. So all of that plays a factor into what we rate the bridges as. And there's forms and formulas to be able to come up with the rating for you that we have at DOT, that we issue out. And all the consultants in the state that are familiar with the state local bridge program are familiar with site calculations. The bottom that I have circled in red is a specialty reductions aspect. So that is, again, like I said, if the detour is super short, then we could reduce a certain part of each score in order to get something more beneficial for the rating of the structure. So the standard SLBP project process, there's a couple of colors on the screen here. The stuff that's in yellow or orange, that is a DOT or internal process. So out of the 14 steps, 6 of them are a me problem exclusively. So going through the project process start to finish, the eligible bridge list is sourced from our internal bridge management division. And we assemble that, as well as throughout the year, if you guys have a structure that is of issue, and you're not sure if it makes the eligible bridge list, that's okay. Just reach out to me at any time and I'll be able to tell you, based on the criteria that the structure needs to be, if it can service or if it can serve in the state local bridge program or not. The grand majority of the entire amount of people that inquire about bridges are eligible. So it's not as difficult to be an eligible structure for the state local bridge program as it would be for, say, the fed local bridge program. Because it's a pretty big net. So after that's sourced, the applicants are eligible, who are eligible, would then prepare an application and submit a full application and get ready to allocate funds. The municipality is required to set aside 50% of the project funds for the entire project ahead of time, just so that everyone knows what they're getting into. We have had municipalities in the past apply for 6, 7 bridges. And then we go to them and ask for proof of funds, make sure they have their 50% to make sure no one wastes their time. And they've had 40 grand in the bank account to be able to spend on 6 bridges at 50% funding. So unfortunately, we weren't able to work with them on those bridges. We had to kind of narrow down scope. But making sure that funds are there for the municipality ahead of time is very essential to making sure things go smoothly and quickly. So after I get all those applications in, I rate them based on their adequacies that we previously touched upon. And then the structures that are in worse condition that I can fund with the amount of budget that I have for each individual year, I would issue a commitment to fund letter for. That's basically your welcome to the program notice and saying we'd love to work with you. Get ready to get to work, because we are too. So the first part and the most time consuming part of the program is our permitting phase. So it's important that the permits start getting attacked as soon as physically possible, because those can range anywhere from probably 6 months to a matter of years. So making sure that those are taken care of primarily and promptly is very important to keeping projects on schedule. The next step is quite a big one, step number 5. That's the supplemental application. So the supplemental application is basically a full administrative package for the entire bridge project through and through. So it's all of your construction drawings, permit drawings, load rating of the structure, making sure that it can carry the loads and the vehicles that are assigned to it in that area, making sure the hydraulics of the waterway are good to go, and that there won't be scour issues in the future on the foundation, et cetera. Making sure that the estimate is within the range that we previously discussed and agreed to, and if things need to change, then we would go for an extension request or a new estimate, and we would allocate funds accordingly as we can. One of the things that's rather important is that the project already goes to bid by the time the supplemental application gets submitted. That's because in order to make sure that no one has to do more paperwork than they have to, the municipality submits the supplemental application with the bid package beforehand so that we know how much the contractor wants to charge for the project, so we can get all of our stuff kind of in one fell swoop through all of our finance folks. And so they're up to speed, we could start bonding. Bonding for the project takes anywhere from 2 to 6 months. So if funds are needed pretty quickly in order to get the project off the ground, we want to make sure that everyone in the finance group is up to date on project funds. So that's step 6 and 7, making sure that that's good to go. So once the project has money in the bank, or allocated towards the project specifically out of the state local bridge general fund that I get every year, I would then sign and execute the grant agreement. That's basically a long legal document outlining the procedures that need to be upheld for clerical and administrative legal purposes, for audits and whatnot, making sure everything is good to go. The final legal agreement saying that we're going to give you this money in exchange for proving that you did this work up to state and federal standards. So once that document is taken care of and executed on the municipality side and gets sent back to me for final chief engineer signature at DOT, we send that to you for your records, and then I can start preparing the funds to be released. So then it needs to be reviewed internally one more time by our finance people, and then they could finally make the direct deposit out to the municipality. Once the grant agreement is signed, the grant payment takes probably about 2 weeks from what I've seen, statistically and kind of a track record. I've seen roughly, probably about 2 weeks on average for the funds to actually be in the municipality account. So, with that being said, if everything is done kind of according to this standard project process, I can get you paid on day 1 of construction. That's the goal. Just to make sure that funds and finances go smoothly again for the municipality and the contractor, to make sure everyone's paid on time, and even ahead of time, we have all of our funds laid out. So the project gets built, and we go through and do a site inspection. So a semi-final inspection on the structure, make sure everything is built according to the plans, all the paperwork is submitted. If there's any last minute details that need to be touched up on the project site. I then also get the as-builts based off of the semi-final inspection. And should the project cost any different, if there's dollars and cents left over, or if we still owe money based on project overages, if there were DSTC requests or various changes throughout the project, then that kind of who owes who what gets taken care of and picked up in the audit phase of the program. So the audit request is all the financial information, not really worth getting into in this presentation, but all of the audit information gets submitted to me, and I then submit it down in a formal request to our audit division, and they pick up the entire who owes who what of the entire project. And upon the completion of the audit request, we can move on to project closeout and make sure everything is good to go.
How,
Yes,
how long are the audits taking these days?
so. That's a question that's difficult to answer simply because I have only gotten a handful of them back. And because I have gone through. Well, I took over the program in 22 and projects that I took into the program just under my direct purview and have put through and also inherited. It's difficult to kind of track because I wasn't sure when a lot of them were submitted. But ones that I started with in 2022, I submitted down in, I think the earliest ones started to be in 2024, middle of 2024. So I haven't seen any, I think I got like a handful of them back. And audits submit a couple of projects a year, and in cleaning out all the racks of projects on the state local bridge program when I inherited it, I spanned them with about 70 audits in 2 years.
Oh, they're talking about you.
Yes, I am not on their Christmas card mailing.
Yeah,
So hopefully, best case scenario, we can get audits turned around in a matter of a few years. But there were some that were in progress, in process, etc. For projects that were before I was born. So I'm not gonna tell you when that is, but yes, some things can just take a real long time for the audits, and I'm doing my best to get through that initial backlog of taking over the program. In the future, things will be much better, but because I created such a traffic jam down there, your guess is as good as mine, I'll say. Could be as long as maybe 5 years or more.
You're gonna look like us by the time you're done.
Yeah.
You wanna talk a little bit about the rights of way process?
Sure, what would you like to know?
Does the DOT take the right of way process in the bridge program?
So for the right-of-way process for state local bridge, it's a little different than the typical process where DOT is gonna go through and handhold all the way through. The right-of-way process, if any dollars are allocated in the project estimate for the right-of-way process, it needs to get a cursory review by our right-of-way team. So in the supplemental application package, there's a list of right-of-way documents that need to be submitted. And as long as those are submitted in full and are justifiable in the entire acquisition process, it pretty much just needs to get submitted down there, get reviewed quickly as more of a cursory, is everything here? And then it gets checked off as good. And the reason why that needs a cursory review by the right-of-way department is because the right-of-way division needs to adhere to federal guidelines at all times. Just for legal mandate, that's what they have to do. So it's much lighter than a typical right-of-way process for any state bridge projects or federal local bridge projects. The reviews can take a couple of weeks, so it's significantly quicker and more efficient than other programs.
So the DOT does not do the right of way phase?
No,
Municipality does.
but it is reimbursed.
Yes.
50%.
50% reimbursement on it. But the municipality is the one that really leads the charge on it. So if there's specific questions about the process and details or specific sticky situations that may come about in the right-of-way process, they're happy to be included as necessary. But for general acquisitions, it's the municipality's responsibility. Good. Did I answer that good enough?
Yeah, good enough. Going back a step.
Yeah.
There's a preservation program which really isn't funded. Do you ever see that coming back alive?
Because of the federal clampdown on funds over the last, let's call it year. And significantly more scrutiny being applied towards everything. The whole preservation idea is making more of an emergence, I've seen. So we have started to accept in the Fed local side of things, more projects for preservation. So it is something that exists. The state local side, preservation really isn't an option, at least at this point in time. Simply because the competition to get into the state local bridge program is so intense. You're quite frankly not gonna make the cut if your bridge is sitting at a 70 or 60%. Yes, 70 or 60% is quite ugly. By general knowledge and really just how you look at it, 60% is not something where you want to go bragging or boasting about. But there's a lot of structures in the state that are in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. So severely load rated, posted for weight ratings, or just completely shut down because they suddenly just are genuinely falling apart and posing a risk to the public.
Is there a time limit to, you can't come back at it for 20 years or something?
10.
10.
Yes. Oh, so for eligibility, I'll touch on that. So if a bridge has been issued state funds or federal funds, you are barred from the state, local, and fed local bridge programs for 10 years. Unless there are extreme extenuating circumstances. For example, we had a bridge washout in Norfolk in 2023 that was relatively new. And we got a call after the flood from the first selectman of Norfolk, and he said there is no bridge anymore. We said, we just looked at the inspection report, bridge looks great to us. And he's like, no, you don't understand, the bridge is no longer there. It got moved and shredded and is a couple hundred yards downstream. So right now, we're about to start construction on a new bridge with significantly deeper piles for that location.
There you go.
But yes, extreme extenuating circumstances can yield re-entry into the program, but generally 10 years.
You can lump FEMA costs in with the program, no problem?
I believe so. Yes, for state local. I was funding projects that were getting FEMA funds from the August of 2024 storms. I believe that's correct. I can check and verify on that, just to make sure, but I believe I was funding structures that were getting FEMA relief funds from the 2024 floods in August. We can move on to the next. Any other questions at this point in time? All right, seeing nothing. So when I took over in 2022, I know I touched on a couple of things that I did, but just kind of a rough summary here. So the eligible bridge list used to be a process that would take me about 2 weeks to compile of all the 4,200 structures in the state that are considered municipal 6 foot and above structures. Now we have an automated eligible bridge list that's live updating at all times, managed by our bridge management division. So that takes a big weight off my shoulders and makes things much better and easier for everyone to get up-to-date information. Number 2, the sufficiency and priority ratings I ask on the bridge applications every year be filled out already ahead of time. Makes everything a lot easier when I'm reviewing 50 applications. So I don't have to go through the calculations 50 times. It's already done by the engineer or municipality who's submitting the engineering reports. Number three, closing documents. That sounds a lot like a property because it was. The way the state local bridge program used to work, it was a loan. So we would have closing documents and an actual physical closing when we would assign the loan for the bridge over to the municipality, and then over time we would get paid back. Those old projects are now all done, closed out. So now we just have the lump sum grant, much easier, much more streamlined way to do things and more beneficial to the municipalities because it's a grant that you don't have to pay back. Number four, the Attorney General used to have to review everything at the end of the day. And being the Attorney General of the state of Connecticut, you have a lot more to deal with than just the state local bridge program. So reviews would take years. And the review itself could take maybe a couple hours, but just because they were such a busy office, it would end up taking those couple of years to get through everything. So I sat down with them and I was able to come to an agreement that as long as I would adhere to certain standards, we could kind of bypass and eliminate the Attorney General sign off for everything. So that was a massive kind of win for the program and getting things in and out as soon as possible. Number five, the kind of gist of that is if a structure is under 20 feet in span, and because for permitting needs, you have to meet that 1.2 bankable width or Army Corps. A lot of structures we're seeing now teetering over the 20-foot span. So that threshold of getting on the NBI at the 20-foot span is a decent process because it changes the bridge ID from a 6-digit ID code, which a 6-digit is 20 feet and less. And then a 5-digit code is a 20-foot 1-inch span or more. So in order to get the new bridge ID, you need to be on the National Bridge Inventory. Our bridge safety unit needs to be made aware of everything so that they can add it to their schedules. So there's a decent amount of stuff that needs to be done. Plus the load ratings need to be actually reviewed internally to make sure that everything is kosher. Versus if it's less than 20 feet, the load rating literally just needs to be submitted to us for record that the engineer who designed it certified it. So instead of having to get reviewed, it just needed to be submitted. But for structures over 20, there's obviously a larger laundry list of things to do. So in order to make sure that that stuff is taken care of, I need to know ahead of time, again, to make sure things go smoothly and quickly. Number 6 is the big win for me. I was able to get an additional $10 million a year for bridge projects when I took over the program in 22. And I believe in 23, I still had to play with $10 million a year. Everyone on this call definitely understands that $10 million is barely a drop in the bucket for a lot of municipalities, and especially when we're talking bridges. $10 million might get you, what, 2, 3, 4 bridges at best nowadays. So that isn't really the statistic that I want to be touting in my program. So I was able to contest that more funding is required for the program in order to make it a more usable and, let's just say, appreciated program. So I was able to double the funding up to 20 million. I'm still fighting for more to make sure that people who are really still struggling, or municipalities that really are still struggling, can get the help that they need, because public safety is our number one, first and foremost objective. Number 7. The supplemental application used to be due at 12 months from the commitment to fund letter issuance. If a project's basically starting at the napkin concept phase, 12 months to get full plan specs, estimates, permits right away, all that, everything done is impossible. So I pushed it out to 18 months, and if either of those thresholds are not met, a simple time extension request, which is a 2-page document saying what's taking longer, why is it taking longer, give me a new schedule and give me new estimates. And if everything looks good to me and we have the money to be able to spend on the project additions, then we're good to go. and your project is good for another 12 months. So as needed, we issue time extension requests as many as necessary in order to get the project to the supplemental application phase. So. The number 8 bullet point. The program used to issue commitment to fund letters much earlier in the year before we knew that we had the annual funding in place. So running the project or program like a business now, why would I allocate funding that I didn't know that I had yet? So I pushed it back later in the year to make sure that it's done after the fact, so that I know I have my funding in place, everything's bonded, and I'm good to go to be able to award the projects, so I don't get myself into a sticky financial situation. Number 9, I introduced a project cost cap at the commitment to fund phase. So the average project cost of all the bridges that I would take in for that application year, say it was 50 projects, for example, I would take the average project cost of all 50 projects, and if any one project is 3 times more than the average cost, then it's eliminated from the program, because there's other programs at DOT available for larger projects. And the state local bridge program is really just meant for small municipal projects. The number 10 bullet point here is the new one. We have the NBI rating system. Right now, it's relatively cut and dry, 0 to 100 rating, as I was discussing previously. The new rating system is a bit different, and it's a brand new rating system that was just issued by the feds over the summer. We're working on trying to come up with a good ranking system to base off of the new rating system, so that I can accept projects. I will be accepting SNBI as well as NBI ratings for the upcoming 2027 fiscal year, which is this summer. So April 1st to May 31st is the annual application window. I will be accepting NBI, which is the previous old rating system, as well as SNBI, the new one, for applications this year. And then next year is going to be a full SNBI rating system only. I don't have much information on it yet at this point, unfortunately, because it's still being figured out, I'll say. So that's enough for this slide.
Are the consultants familiar with the SMBI?
They're familiar with the rating system as a whole. But the ranking system based off of the rating system that DOT needs to come up with, so that I can rank the structures, like I used to rank NBI. Just to say this one is in worse condition than this one because of these reasons. That is still being figured out by management. So the SNBI is well known to all who are dealing with municipal railway projects. So this chart here is a whole lot of information, but I just want to highlight a couple of things here. So I started taking data I have data in here from 10 years. So starting in 2016, all the way up to today. And today, meaning our 2025, our summer of 2025, which was our fiscal year 26 acceptance here at the bottom, we can see that the popularity in the program increased rather dramatically over the years. So there was a project cost average in 2016 of $850,000, and only, what is it? Only $7 million of funds were committed, which means, or 7.9 million. So I have roughly $2 million that I didn't spend that year, or funds that weren't spent by my predecessor. That happened for a long time because the state local bridge program was not a very popular program. There were better programs available at the time. So I always had leftover funding in the past. So my coffers were pretty full at the time. So in 2017, 19, 20, and 21, those coffers were pretty much getting emptied out. They were kind of doing a big push through at the time. Politically, that was advantageous to kind of get everybody in the door and accept everybody who came in. So acceptance rates were still very high, with a peak year of acceptance rates in 2021 of 49 projects. So with the $10 million allotment, we actually ended up giving out almost $40 million in projects for that specific year. And that pretty much depleted the coffers for the state local bridge program. So for the next year, when I came in and was the new manager, I unfortunately had a record number of applicants to the program with 55 structures. And I was only able to fund 22% of them. I was able to fund 12 of the 55 jobs, which is not a statistic I'm proud of, but it's all we were able to do at the time. And that was our really leading factor into ensuring the cost or the larger allotment for the program to get up to $20 million a year. So I was able to fund significantly more projects in 2024, 5 and 6 with $20 million than the initial $10 million. So the only issue here is in 2016, like I said, $850,000 gets you a full bridge replacement. In 2026, it costs almost triple that. So we're averaging about $2.5 million for a structure replacement in the state local bridge program, which is very difficult to try and get everyone in the door that needs it. So for example, in 2026 fiscal year, so 2025 calendar year, most of the structures, all but one of the projects that was accepted to the program was because of the August floods of 2024. So it was 14 structures that were affected by that specific flood. And because they were so debilitated, the project cost was so high. So I'm trying to make sure that I have future funding to be able to allot as much as I can towards the program. The future is essential. So again, I'm still fighting to get more funding, 25, potentially 30 million in the future. I will definitely be making an announcement if I do get that money, because that's going to be big for the program. So really the goal of all this is just to make everybody aware of the program if you haven't heard about it before, and kind of create the confidence and the bond and kind of show that I'm not just some person behind the curtain pulling strings. I'm a person willing to help. And I definitely want to get as many jobs in the program and also out of the program as possible, because that means we're helping more towns save money and keep all their infrastructure in a state of good repair. We can move on to the next slide. So that kind of closes out the presentation for today. What I would like to do is, Kate, if you could click on the local bridge link on the Visit Us online app. And we could just take a quick visit to the local bridge program website. So I can show you where to find some of this information. You have to hit control and then click the link. Everything you got it. Oh, perfect. Okay, so when you click on the link in my email address, or if you just type in CT local bridge program on Google, it'll bring you to this website. So this local bridge program website is both for the Fed local and state local bridge programs. Both of them are hubbed out of here. And the first announcement right on it is that the application window is currently closed for the state local bridge. And again, April 1st to May 31st is when the program is open annually for applications. And I then take a month to go through everything, write up the acceptance letters, and then July 1st is typically around when our acceptance letters and press releases go out for the future year for the state local bridge acceptance. So if we scroll down a little bit, we can see some of the nice fancy bridges that we've done over the years. And then,
Where are they?
Connecticut.
That narrows it down, then.
I am not familiar with those. Those were all Fed local bridge jobs. None of them were mine, so unfortunately, I do not have the specific answers, but that's a good idea to throw in a little geotag for each of those pictures because those are pretty good looking structures that we want to highlight and kind of shed the spotlight on. So if we keep going down, further, it's almost at the bottom of the page. We have office contacts right here. And then down further, we have important program links. Unfortunately, the important program links is all the way at the bottom. So if you made it this far with me, we have the eligible bridge list link. We don't have to click on that right now. That opens you up to a large spreadsheet that has a list of all the structures in the state. And it says if yours is eligible or not. Next is the second link from the bottom, documents, forms, and reference materials. That's the big one for state local bridge program. So, yes, that one right there. This page right here is all of the information that's important for the state local bridge program. So it has your time extension requests, the program manual, notice of construction work completion, public meeting minutes template, supplemental application, preliminary application, so on and so forth. Kate, would you be able to click on the top deliverables checklist? So kind of a highlight of this entire program is this little checklist that I made up here. This I issue with the commitment to fund letters if your bridge is selected. And this checklist is basically a state local bridge program for dummies. It is a checklist of everything that I need submitted to me in the program in order to get paid out for your grant. So as you get it, I have this exact chart for all of my projects, and I go in and get a progress update on every project based off of these checklists. So it's a nice, easy two-way checklist where the municipality can track what's needed and what they were able to accomplish thus far. And also it helps me track on the internal side of what I still need from the municipality. So that's kind of a very helpful little roadmap through the program that I rely on daily now. So I hope in the future, if there are municipalities in this meeting that do get into the state local bridge program, you can use this to your advantage because it definitely is an advantage to me. At this point, happy to take any questions. Either on the presentation or on the website itself.
The 6 foot minimum span, that's if you're upgrading something, whether it's a foot or two, as long as the design is 6, the new design that's qualifies for the.
The existing structure needs to start at 6,
Oh,
unfortunately.
Can't make it 6.
If you have a chisel one night,
yeah, right, so open it up a little, yeah.
you measure diagonally, you might be able to get to 6.
But it's like, if it's 3 culverts, it'll be from one end to the other end.
Yes, if it's pipes that are dual action on the same waterway, and are serving as the same structure, then that would count. But if it's just one culvert serving a little brook that happens to be 5.5 feet, then it would not be eligible.
Interesting.
Any other questions, even from people online?
What would be a good example of ineligible costs?
If you like catering at your work meetings,
You're killing me, no booze, no food.
so I think
This is
Lunch is not covered.
easier to say what is eligible for coverage, so anything for design. Your direct costs, so mileage, postage, legal work, direct billings for the municipality time. I think are covered. If the town was to, so for example, if the municipality had to go to the bank and get a loan to be able to cover their 50%, the interest on the loan that you would be paying the bank back would not be eligible. That's something.
Any aesthetic improvements that they wouldn't cover?
If something is there now, then it can be mimicked and emulated. But if it was just a little wooden bridge in the backwoods of the municipality, suddenly we wanted to put fountains and lights and all whatever, that would not be eligible. No. That, it would be allowed to be incorporated into the project, but the additional costs would have to be taken on by the municipality.
An example of that would be is if it was a little puddle jumper bridge and, we want to include sidewalks in the bike lane.
If we are doing accessibility improvements to the structure, that would be. Because that would have to do with CT/DOT connectivity. So that would be included. If we are to include sidewalks and bike paths, what have you, yes.
Do you have a rule of thumb about how much roadway and other side typically gets included or case by case?
It's more of a case by case basis. And that's also based off of traffic counts. So we're not gonna be putting in a 4-lane highway on an ADT structure of 100. If the town wanted that, then within reason, we would be able to account for certain things. But it would all have to fall back on, is it justified?
Now, we've had the question about stuff like form liners and stuff before.
Mhm.
Is that, what's your feeling on those things?
Liners are definitely an allowable thing. Bridges don't have to be ugly. And if it was a structure that was falling apart, form liners are not an expensive addition to a project, so that would absolutely be allowed. Because that's more or less just a spec. In the design and just a note or two on the plans, so that's not a big deal.
Interesting comment, bridges don't have to be ugly.
Hopefully. That's the goal, at least, especially in the local bridge program, we're dealing with people's backyards and people's neighborhoods, so we want to make sure a bridge is functional, but again, yes, bridges don't have to be ugly. And where we could make improvements, we will do our best to do so, as long as we have the funds in the program and costs are justifiable for the project.
The 4,200 bridge estimate you have for the whole state, that seems, I mean, it seems a lot, but it does seem low in one sense, considering all the secondary roads that towns can have. Is that, who came up with that? Is that?
That was something from our bridge management division, that is structures over the drainage structure size. So everything's 6 feet over. Fun fact, Connecticut has the most number of bridges per mile of any state in the country. Oh.
Job security.
You bet.
All right, any other questions?
Anyone online? All right, sounds good. Kate, thank you for your time today. Everyone else online, thank you for your time. I appreciate you taking the time. I know it was a bit of a long presentation, but your attention to this program is very appreciated. I hope to do business with everyone in the future. Yeah. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out at any time. Andrew.shields@ct.gov.
Thank you so much, Andrew. We appreciate your time and your expertise, and thank you all for attending.